in the Caribbean. How are you all doing this morning? Hello, I hope you can hear me okay. Let me know if there's any audio problems. I don't know, because you're laughing at me here. So let me know if there's any audio problems. I'm hoping this is going out all right. Just going to have a little bit of a slurp of my cup of tea, so maybe just don't listen to this bit. Is that okay? Is that okay? Afternoon, everyone, says Katrina. Hello, Katrina, how you doing? And yes, we're going to be talking about fighting back today. We're going to talk about what can we do? What can we do about the billionaires that are ruining everything for everyone? I'll tell you what, I'll take my mic off for a moment, right, and have a big slurp. There you go. I've essentially finished my tea now, so yeah. Diz, morning. So anyway, listen, we're going to be talking a little bit about what we can do to fight back against the billionaires today, because it is difficult when so many people who are otherwise, outwardly intelligent, I guess, get caught up in this whole thing, this reverence, this deference towards the rich. We see this all the time with the royal family in the UK. I mean, it's crazy. Like, people wait in line for days to pay respect and adulation to the royal family, and I just don't really get it. I just see them as sort of people. But what we've done in this ultra-capitalist society which we have built for ourselves is we've elevated the oligarchs, that's the rich business people of the world, up to the status of gods. Look at the hero worship for someone like Steve Jobs. He was a businessman. Great. He didn't end world hunger. And now you see the same thing with the tech bros and people like Peter Thiel, and especially Elon Musk, who sort of typifies this weird thing that we have right now, where you have a lot of very insufficient males. Can I call them that? Is that really bad? It's probably pretty bad that I'm saying that, but yeah. Insufficient males who absolutely hero worship people like Elon Musk and think that everything they do and say is absolutely incredible and amazing. I hate listening to Elon Musk talk almost as much as I hate listening to Trump talk, because he's not very good at it. Like, listening to him trying to do a launch of something, he sounds half awake. Every other word is, yeah, well, we're gonna, maybe like next year, and it's like, oh my God, it's like, it's so painful. It's like trying to work with really slow internet. Like, when you're trying to type something into the keyboard and the letters are coming up like 5 seconds after you press them. It's a bit like that, listening to Elon Musk. How anyone can think, oh yeah, Elon Musk has got to give a talk about something, I'm going to go to that. I'd be like, bloody hell, I'd rather watch paint dry. It's less painful. It is just a weird thing. He just looks like he's lying. Yeah, he looks like he's half asleep on ketamine. Which he probably is. But yeah, what we can do, I talked about this a little bit last week when I was saying we really need to have a little bit of a boycott of American products, because that will, we only need to hit their bottom line by like 1%. We only need to make it so they don't grow in a quarter. That's all, which is not, it is nothing in the greater scheme of things. For them to sit up and pay attention. If we can do to Coca-Cola or to McDonald's or whoever what we've done to Twitter by just leaving it, other alternatives are available. And yeah, I think that this is something where we really need to have a bit of a strategy in place, make an effort, and an app would be good, wouldn't it? Should we make an app that's on your phone, and then you can check if you're about to buy something, whether you should be saying no thanks, Yank. But also the stuff that we can do in this country as well. I was thinking about this. One of the many casualties of the 14 years of Tory tyranny that we lived through from 2010 to 2024 was this, aside from the hundreds of thousands of people who died from austerity, the price costs going up through the roof because of Brexit, and the horrifically bad handling of the COVID situation. Apart from all that, one of the other casualties was oversight of companies, and we're seeing this where the fact that it is cheaper to pay the fine if you get fined, right? Because it's voluntary reporting. When you put shit in a river, you're not going to get a fine unless you put your hand up and say, "Oh, sorry, we put some shit in the river. Do you mind fining us?" So if you do decide to admit that you put shit in the river, or you found out, and off what issue you were fined, the fine is a fraction of what it will cost to clean it up. Now and it's capped as well. The fines for these big companies that are polluting the world with oil leaking out of their pipelines, or with their shit being pumped into the rivers and streams because they can't get the chemicals they need to break down the shit from Europe because of Brexit. Another Brexit bonus there. Our rivers are full of shit. Now, the fine is limited in those cases. Like, those companies can't be given an unlimited fine. Here's the thing. If you download some movies without paying for the privilege from Amazon or Netflix or whoever, so even if you have an Amazon account and you pay for Amazon Prime, right? But your partner happens to be deaf, just as one of those things, could be anyone. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular here. Your partner's deaf, and then you sit down to watch Strictly Ballroom, Baz Luhrmann's 1994 film, which is quite fun, and where they get Strictly Come Dancing from, because it used to be just Come Dancing, and now it's Strictly Come Dancing, because of Strictly Ballroom by Baz Luhrmann, which is the movie he made before Romeo and Juliet, and then he went on to make Moulin Rouge and stuff. Anyway, so imagine you're paying for Prime membership and there is no subtitles on the movie. So your partner can't watch them. You think I'm going off on a bit of a mad tangent here, but I will circle back. So you're like, oh, what should we do? And I say, I know what we can do. We can download it, somewhere online, right? And it'll have subtitles. And they'll be deadly accurate as well. So even though we're paying our Amazon subscription, if I was to do that in this hypothetical situation, I would be breaking copyright law. And let me tell you something about copyright law. It is unlimited. The fines are unlimited. So if you download a shitload of movies, you could be on the hook for billions with a B. And yet these fucking companies pouring shit in our rivers, they can do that, and the fines are capped. They are limited. Wow. Madness. I mean, that would be the only reason why I would download pirated movies. Obviously, I would never do it. Otherwise, it's very naughty. But you know what's not naughty? Jason J. Jason J is the opposite of naughty, because Jason J has just dropped £5 in the Super Chat fund. It's far more important to restrict intelligence to them now. US companies aren't to blame, but we can't afford for our intel to go to Putla. Jason, yes, but we can do, I can't do anything about that. Like, me personally, I agree with what you're saying, and I get that there are degrees of, seriousness of all this, right? However, I can't do anything about that. But I can make a conscious decision to not buy American products. Buy Belgian chocolate rather than Mars bars. Go to a local coffee shop, little Greasy Spoon cafe for a coffee rather than going to a chain like Starbucks or Costa. By the way, there are no Costas in Costa Rica. Yeah, true story. Not even in the airport. There's no Costa. You go to Costa Rica, there's no Costa. It's a bit like when I went to Congo and there was no one Bongo in the Congo. There was an Ali Bongo, but he wasn't in the Congo. He was in Gabon. He was the president of Gabon. He was elected president of Gabon while I was there in 2009. He's been deposed since with a little help from the Wagner Group. So Gabon's in a bit of a state at the moment. But, he was the son of Omar Bongo, who ran the country from the 1960s until 2009. He was one of the oldest still existing dinosaurs of the African independence movement, I guess, over those years. And he was still in charge. And he ran the place with an iron fist. And now his son took over, which is nice. Anyway, we'll probably need to thank the Five Eyes. Yep, absolutely. Sharing information with America is going to become very, very dangerous for our agents operating abroad, especially because Trump will sell them to the highest bidder. He has no qualms about doing that. He has no regard for human life. He has no regard for the sanctity of human life. He has no empathy. He doesn't have a very big range of emotions. That's why you never see him laugh. You never see him laugh. He's too much of a narcissist. He's too much of a psychopath to do that. And then again, I mean, maybe he's too stupid to be a psychopath, because I think psychopaths are very good at sort of blending in and making people think that they're normal, or, you know, not a psychopath. Obviously, there's no such thing as normal, as my fellow neurotypicals will tell you. But yeah, at the same time, OMG, it's kind of scary. Thames Water get fined like 50k, which is petty cash for them. Yeah, Katrina, exactly. But if you downloaded the movie that's on at the cinema and you got caught for it, you could be fined more than that for watching a movie. That maybe you downloaded it because you wanted to see it at the cinema, you really did, and you were willing to pay to see it at the cinema, but because only 1% of films in the English language have subtitles and your partner's deaf, you can't go and see that film at the cinema, so you download it instead, because you need to watch it really before you get all the spoilers. You know, the spoilers that everyone likes to spoil things with. The spoilers. Spoiler alert. What? No one in Congo actually drinks some bongo? No? It's disgraceful. Was Ali Bongo not head of the Magic Circle? Yes, he was in the 1980s. It was a bit of a career change for him. It was a bit like Nick Fury, I think. You know, he started off as a white magician and he turned into a black strongman dictator in America. I think that's what happened with Nick Fury. I can't remember. I know it enraged some gammon somewhere once until they realized it was Samuel L. Jackson. They were like, oh, we like him. He's all right. He's all right. We like him. It's okay. But the gammon freaking out about the fact that next James Bond might be played by a black person. Oh my God. No pearl shall go unclutched. But yeah, to go back to what I was saying about what we can do, we can't do much about the British spy network. You know, we can't do much about what MI5, MI6, Five Eyes, GCHQ choose to do, but we can choose what we spend our money on, and we don't need to do that much to make that very clear. Join The Exorcist. The Exorcist. Sorry, not The Exorcist. Join The Exodus from Twitter, or X as it's been called since Musk took it over and destroyed it. And join us all on Blue Sky instead, or Threads, or Instagram, or Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook, all at Graham David Hughes. So just remember my middle name is David, and you'll be able to find me. And yeah, doing that kind of thing. And I know you look at that going, but Graham, they're owned by Americans as well. I'm like, yeah, but they're not owned by that particular company, which isn't actually owned by an American. It's owned by a South African, but there you go. American, you know, the migrants who destroyed America. Peter Thiel, born in Germany, Elon Musk, born in South Africa, and Rupert Murdoch, born in Australia. The three immigrants who... Add Trump to that, and you have the four Nepo babies of the apocalypse. Isn't that embarrassing? Isn't that just the shittest way to go? You know, T.S. Eliot was right when he wrote, you know, this is how the world ends, not with a bang, but with a whimper of weird little tech bros jumping up and down on a stage saying "whelp." It's bizarre. Macedon is German, I think. Well, that would make a lot of sense, Katrina, because you get these massive long names, don't you, on Macedon, because you've got to put your that you're on as well as your username, which I find really annoying. Like, why do you need your own server on a Twitter-like platform? You know, no, I don't want it to say .Twitter. I don't want it to say @ you know, I don't want to be twitter.com/my username. That's far too simple. I want to use my own website. So what? I'm going to use GrahamDavidHughes.com, so I can start up my own server called Graham, and my username will be GrahamDavidHughes.GrahamDavidHughes.com or something. .bsky. Oh my God, it's too long. And I think that's what put a lot of people off Mastodon. It was the whole thing of having too many options. I don't want that many options. Twitter worked in the first place because you only had, back in the day, about 90 characters. It was the length of a text message minus 20 characters or something like that. Don't quote me on exactly what it was. They've expanded it since then, but the original was you could send a text message and that will come up. And that restriction made people more creative in how they use the platform. Instagram, you could only put one picture up at a time, and it had to be square, and people adapted and made it work for them. And one really annoying thing about YouTube, by the way, when I try and do YouTube notifications or posts on the YouTube page for here, it makes the picture square. So if I've got like a thumbnail that I've made that's 16 by 9, the standard ratio for what you're watching this on now, it doesn't even thing. Vendetta says you don't have to create your own server, FFS. Yes, I know. I mean, you don't have to. I'm saying that if the fact that you can, and the fact that you've got to put more letters in your description of who you are when you're trying to get other people to find you on that platform, then it's possibly comfortable. Like, I think Graham David Hughes is too long, right? As a handle. I wish I could just have Graham. I wish I could just have Gray or Gray or G. Just G, that'll do. I'm G, just find G. Oh, that sounds a bit pretentious though, wouldn't it? But yeah, too many letters, too many options. This is one of the big problems with smart TVs now. It's too many things to go through to try and find what you want to watch. It's not like the old days in Blockbuster where you'll spend hours going through all the videos in Blockbuster, not trying to find one that you wanted to watch necessarily, but just trying to find one that wasn't already taken out. Hey, call yourself GH, yeah. GH, that's it in British Sign Language. GH is this, right? And I think that's so cool. That will do me. Surely Gingers. Well, yeah, I did have that Ginger Scouser, but I couldn't. I remember years ago I tried to get a Hotmail. I tried to have my Hotmail account changed to that Ginger Scouser at hotmail.com, and it wouldn't let me. Does anybody know why it would? My God, this is going to be a good question because I think anyone's going to guess this. What was the problem 20 years ago with having the name that Ginger Scouser in a Hotmail account name? Why would it reject that automatically out of hand? If anyone knows this, oh my God, you win all the gold stars, all the jelly babies. So yeah, fighting back so we can talk about leaving Twitter. And I like this idea of quiet quitting. You know, when they talk about people who have got a job that is a bit demanding and they're not getting paid any extra. And so their boss thinks that they should have their phone on when they're on holiday and all this kind of stuff. So you've got this quiet quitting revolution where people are just turning up at 9 o'clock and then at 5 o'clock, even if they're halfway through writing an email, they just turn off the computer and walk away. And then they come back the next day, they do the absolute bare minimum that they can get away with. That's what I think we should do with American products. Quietly quit them. Just walk away. Be aware of what's an American product or service or whatever, and if you have the choice, try and use one that isn't. And obviously, it's not across the board. And I think this is easier anyway. I always have this conversation with vegetarians who are quite militant, and they think that everyone should be a vegetarian because they're a vegetarian. Like people who do Bitcoin think everyone else should have Bitcoin because if you buy Bitcoin, it makes their Bitcoin worth more. So it's not like you get people going around going, you need to earn more money. Why? Because you need more money. Because you have more money, that makes me richer. It actually does, because that's the way the economy works, but no one thinks like that. But with Bitcoin, it's because it's a pyramid scheme. It's very obvious that like the more people who invest in Bitcoin or any crypto scam, the money that it's worth will go up for the people who got in there early or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, just anyway, being aware of what's an American product, what's not, American services, and also, I mean, I guess there is stuff we can do with helping our friends in America with whatever they need over the next few years. I mean, it's going to be really, really difficult for them, especially if they bring in this act that they're planning to do in January, which they'll probably get through both houses pretty easily because they're going to have control of the. Unless the, I mean, I'm sure that the okay. So the process is you've got the lower house, right, which is the House of Commons, which is the House of Representatives. It's got 435 people in it, and the Democrats are in the minority, slender minority. The Republicans are in the majority there, only by a couple of people. And then it's got to go. There's no filibuster. There's no filibuster rule in the House. So quickly to explain the filibuster, you have an allocated amount of time for each debate. Everything that goes through the House has to be debated, right? Unless it's a statutory instrument, which is something different. But if you're changing the law, you need to generally have a debate about it. At the end of the debate, the vote needs to happen. However, if you run out of time, then you don't get to do the vote, right? So if people keep talking, then you won't get to do the vote. But generally speaking, people stand up for 2 minutes, they'll talk, then they'll sit down again, and then someone else will talk, and then once they're finished. But you can't tell someone once they're on their feet to shut up. They can continue talking for as long as they like. That was the rule in the House of Representatives until about 100 odd years ago, when they got rid of it because nothing was getting done, because everyone was just filibustering everything. They still have this rule in the Senate, and to block the filibuster or end the filibuster, you need a majority of 60 out of the 100 senators that are in the upper chamber. And they changed the rules, I think in the 90s, to say you don't have to stand up and talk for hours on end until the time for the debate runs out. All you need to do is threaten to do it, essentially. Just say, yeah, we're going to do that. And then there needs to be a filibuster breaker of 60 senators who say, right, we're going to get this through. So there's a very good chance that a lot of what Trump wants to do is going to get filibustered to F-U-C-K by the Democrats in the upper chamber. However, it's only a convention. And you know what conservatives are like with conventions. We saw that with Trump's first term. We saw that with Boris Johnson. They're not really into them. Thatcher even wasn't particularly conventional. She wasn't particularly conservative. She was quite a radical. She was a right-wing radical, but she was a radical. She didn't want to keep things the way they were. She wanted to stir things up, shake things down, make winners and losers. Because, that's what life's all about, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, there is a very good chance that the Republicans are simply going to change the rules. Oh, is it a bit windy? Sorry, hang on. Oh no! I left my fluffy little wind guards. Oh no! Sorry, I've got my bag here, but I've left my. I'm going to put that on my shoulder. Hopefully, it'll be a little. I'll talk like this because the wind's coming in from that direction. So there's a very good chance that the Republicans will actually get rid of that convention they might get rid of the filibuster, which will allow them to get anything through. And there's a law that dates back to the 1800s, the 1860s or something. It's called the Cornstalk Act. And essentially it bans the movement through the post or any kind of delivery system, any kind of logistical system, I suppose, of anything that's deemed lurid or, immoral, right? Immoral to the Republican Party, It's fun to see what they think is immoral. But it includes things like pornography, but also, which could get banned in the US, but also it includes stuff like abortion medication, morning after pill. I think they call it something else in America. In the UK, it's called the morning after pill, which is a bit of a misnomer. You can take it up to like a week or something after having sex. So it doesn't have to be the morning after. But in the US, if they bring back this Cornstalk Act, then it's the end of abortion in America across the country. And there's a good chance they're going to do it. Now, if that does happen, we might have to help. There might be things that we can do to help people literally smuggle in abortion medication from Mexico and from Canada. People are going to do it. People smuggling Easter eggs, Kinder eggs, and haggis and unpasteurized cheese and other things that are banned in America. So that might be something that we can sort of help out with. When it comes to the billionaires, we need to keep on them. There's a really good site called Hope Not Hate that go after the advertisers on GB News and in the Daily Mail and that kind of stuff, or Stop Funding Hate. So there's Hope Not Hate and there's also Stop Funding Hate. And being part of those organizations and contributing to those organizations is really important as well, because we need to cut the monetary source off from these bastards. You know, I bet Vorsh feels really good about himself. I remember when people started talking about Bitcoin, whenever it wasn't far after the late 90s, and back then it was cheap. Yeah, but the thing is with Bitcoin, no one knows who set it up. No one knows who set it up. And when I try and explain this to people, like, if I set it up and I was so inclined, I will give it a backdoor that no one can see in the code that is published, that is freely available. They're like, oh, the code is in the public domain. I'm like, yeah, all of it, all of it, all of it. Yeah, and no one knows who set it up. So it's set up by an anonymous person who at any time could just press the nuke button on it or just cash in his $17 trillion or whatever it's going to be worth once Trump decides to abandon the US dollar and invest in Bitcoin instead. To get around the corn stock rules, could they use private couriers instead of the post? No, I don't think they can. That's why I specified logistics. I don't think you can move a lorry across state lines because that's included as the post, I think. Or they might just update it to cover all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure those loopholes will be covered, will be closed by the Republicans who are absolutely gung-ho on destroying the lives of millions of women around America. There can't be a backdoor, but the person who started it has an astronomical amount of Bitcoin, enough to tank it all if it was sold. Anyway. How is Bitcoin expected to stretch to everyone in the world? It's not. It's meant to make a few people a lot of money, like all scams. And if you made some money from it yourself, well done. It's got better, don't worry. Sorry to worry you. Did we find out what happened with Costa Rica referendum becoming a US state? No, Puerto Rico, not Costa Rica. Costa Rica's a country. Costa Rica's its own country. Puerto Rico is an American state. American territory, overseas territory, along with the US Virgin Islands. I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to the US Virgin Islands. I've been to Guam. I've been to the Mariana Islands. And I've been to American Samoa. So there you go. Been to all the overseas territories of America. Apart from those little weird ones. You know, little weird ones in the ocean. It's like Howland Island, is it? Howland? Baker Island? Yeah, I've not been there. More importantly, the Bitcoin, but no one lives there. Pyramid selling. Most importantly, the Bitcoin network can only cope with about 7 transactions per second. Really? That's really slow. That's really slow. I haven't had lunch yet. Give me a chance at the gin stitcher. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I've got to be honest with you, right? I've been working all day. I've been shifting soil. I've been, bloody hell, losing weight. I've lost about a stone in the last week. It's insane. If you ever want to lose weight, come over here. Come over here to fucking Panama and spend a couple of weeks on this island and just do work. Because it's so hot, you lose your appetite because you're just hot all the time. You just want to drink. You don't want to necessarily eat anything. It's an appetite suppressant. And I think you just sweat most of your fat out. as glorious as that sounds. Although I did hear that you actually breathe your fat out. Did you know that? When you get rid of most of your fat when you lose weight, breathing, you breathe it. Seriously. But yeah, it's just start like a slimming club here on the island. How do you get fresh water in? Ask Verge. Verge. I just put your name, Viv, together. Viv Burgess. I just put it all together into one word and made it Verge. So there's 2 ways. First of all, we can buy a bottle from the shop, but this is a refill. So we buy one of those big glug glug, the big glug glug bottles that you get in offices. Yeah, get one of them. That's got about 4 or 5 gallons in or something, And I've got a little pump that sits on top of a little plastic pump, and you hit the top of the pump and pumps out water, right? And then that goes into here, and then that goes into the freezer. You can see there's ice in there. Yeah, drink that. But for the house water, for having a shower, flushing the toilets, brushing your teeth, doing the dishes, that all comes from rainwater that hits the roof, and it goes down into, now the gutters are actually 4-inch pipe, 4-inch plastic PVC pipe that have had a slit taken out of them. So imagine like a whole pipe, it's got a slit in it, right? And then you basically shove the slit into the edge of the metal. You see the metal behind me there? See the metal? Yeah, you shove that in, and the water comes down into that pipe, and then at the end of that pipe, that goes down into a water storage tank. So we've got something like 500-gallon tank under the house, which keeps loads of water. And because this is technically a rainforest here in Bocas del Toro in Panama, we get so much rain, you would not believe, which is great because it makes everything very green and things grow so fast. It's unbelievable. Next to the house, there looks like an ancient tree. It honestly looks like it must be 50 years old. It's a mangrove growing next to the house. And it's only about like 5 or 6 years old. Like it's where I used to have my chickens. It's where I used to have my chicken roost. My chicken house, what's it called? Hen house. My hen house used to be there. Unbelievable. I used to have chickens. I used to have 12 chickens on here. And they all had names. There was one called Rorschach. There was one called Les. There was the cockerel. We only had one cock. You can only have one cock, otherwise they fight. And you can have as many layers as you want, but you can only have one cock. And the cock was a Rhode Island red rooster, and absolutely beautiful chicken. And I called him the Colonel, after Colonel Sanders from KFC. Yeah. On a side note, Graham, it looks lovely and warm where you are, bloody cold in the UK. Yeah, Catherine told me today that it was minus 1.5 degrees in Durham. Jesus. Yes, it's true that the fat gets converted to CO2 when you breathe out. Look at that, Katrina. Yes, I love bizarre facts. They're my favourite. Breathe out as CO2, that's bad for the environment. By remaining generously upholsters, I'm helping to fight against global warming. Yes, indeed. Looks like we've got to pick up the slack for the Americans. The UK should wait until we accumulated power first and start throwing our weight around. So yeah, next thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, I was going to mention about quiet quitting, and I mentioned about vegetarians, and I didn't finish that thread. So vegetarians that I meet who want everyone to be a vegetarian, I do get where they're coming from, because to them, meat is murder. It's, if they're doing it for a moral reason, not for a religious reason or dietary reason, like they can't process meat or whatever. If they're doing it for moral reasons, I can completely understand why they would want everyone to be all in, right? However, take a step back and think about this, right? What is easier, to do? Changing the entire dietary habits of millions of people, right? Or even just 1 million people, right? Or making it so that 10 million people make a pledge to just have one day a week where they don't eat meat. Meat-free Mondays, call it, right? And on that day, they have cereal for breakfast. They have, some lunch that doesn't involve meat, and then they have some dinner, which is a veggie casserole or a curry or something. Right. I think that would be a lot easier for people to stomach, right? And then have a think about how much that would affect how many animals get slaughtered and how many, the meat industry as a whole. If you have, instead of like the idea of a few 100,000 people turning to complete vegetarianism, you have millions of people just having one day a week where they say, right, I'm not going to eat meat that day. And the impact, not just on the meat industry, but also on the amount of CO2 that the meat industry makes, would be massive. Also, the concept of just cutting out a particular meat. Beef would be a really good one. Like, if you can cut beef out of your diet, cut it out. Have chicken, that's fine. Chicken doesn't pollute that much. In fact, there are some crops that pollute more than chickens do. Chickens are kind of great in that respect. And the chickens that you eat are only about 35 days old. Let me tell you that now. It's not like you keep a chicken for 4 years and it lays loads of eggs and then they then it goes off to the chop shop to make your chicken kebab. No, it doesn't work like that. They are special, specially bred chickens that grow ridiculously fast. So yeah. But yeah, cutting beef out of your diet entirely, it's like quiet quitting. It's like not giving up. It's not quitting your job, but it's just doing a little bit to change your lifestyle. That's not so impactful. It doesn't seem like such a big thing. And then, off the back of that, maybe you'll give up lamb. Maybe you'll give up venison and veal, and maybe you'll give up foie gras and other things that are cruel. But yeah, it's something that I think we should think about rather than a complete all-out ban, or not a ban, but trying to get people to be vegetarian. I think a better move is to try and get people to be more vegetarian. So rather than say let's boycott everything American, because that's impossible, I'll say quiet quit. Let's boycott what we can. Let's just when you've got the choice, choose the local thing rather than the thing that's owned by America. And then we'll talk about defense a little bit. So one of the good things that's going to come from this, and there aren't many, but one of them is going to be that Europe is going to have to get its act together. Seriously, get its act together. I think that we could see Hungary being thrown out of the EU in the next couple of years. Watch this space. And also, I think that we can see the UK getting a lot closer. Sorry, it's getting really windy. I'm sorry if this is windy on the mic. I think. I mean, I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm sure. Certainly, I'll be wrong again at some point. I could go. I was going to say I could walk you to the house and get the fluffer for me microphone, so you weren't getting the wind on it. Let me know if it's too bad. Let me know. But yeah, so we're going to have more. We're going to have closer ties with Europe, definitely, certainly, especially with security. NATO is going to become more and more important for us, especially if US does what Trump wants to do, which is to pull out. So supporting that, getting your MPs to pushing your MPs to say more dialogue with the rest of our continent, and support for Ukraine is absolutely critical. Support for Ukraine is 100%. Yeah, that's what we need. And then the environment, right? So Trump is going to be pulling out of the Paris Climate Accords again for the second time, and his plan is to drill. He's going to try and get rid of all the oil that's left, because in the future we won't need oil. In the future we won't need to make decent plastics or roads. Anyway, so yeah, let's drill all the oil out and burn it. Let's just burn that bastard oil. Let's burn as much of it as we can and destroy the future of the planet for our children, and make my island go underwater. The link to the GoFundMe is in the description if you would like to stop Jinja Island from going underwater. It'd be really, really helpful right now. We use oil for certain medicines as well. Yep, we do. We use polymers for all kinds of stuff. We will need oil in the future. And the best thing we can do is not burn it. That's the absolute best thing we can do, is actually just keep as much of it as we can, store it. And you know what? Right now, if we could store most of that in the ground, that would be even better. That would be brilliant. Let's just store it in the ground for future generations to use. But no, we're not going to do that. We're going to dig it out and we're going to burn it. So pushing for more environmental protections and pushing the envelope when it comes to innovation in green tech, which I really believe in. I know that tarmac is overrated. What's wrong with cobblestones? Good point, Uncle Heavy, actually. I really like cobblestones in city centres. One, it looks so much nicer, and two, it slows down the cars. It's very hard to drive at 30 miles an hour over cobblestones because you're like that. So it slows cars down. It's brilliant. Does two jobs at once. Looks nice, slows the cars down. But yeah, when it comes to the environment, we really need to be pushing for this Labour government. And, this is, again, writing to your MP and bringing up these issues. When I go off on one about how much I hate carbon capture technology bullshit, green offsetting bullshit, hydrogen, blue hydrogen, green hydrogen, white hydrogen, polka dot pink hydrogen. It pisses me off because that is bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. It's not going to happen for years. It doesn't work. And investing in those industries to me is just incredibly frustrating. You might want to point this out to your MP. They might not know. They might not realize that hydrogen is bullshit or carbon capture is bullshit. But, if we could get that message to Ed Miliband, and then, Labour supporters will say, but they're doing this for the jobs. I'm like, get better jobs. Jesus Christ, build a bloody wind turbine. Cobblestones are nightmarish for cyclists, though. Very good point. But also, slightly slows you down. Then the cyclists will just have to use the cycle paths. Cobblestones are a nightmare for everyone. Lol. No. I mean, they are a nightmare for drivers, cyclists, those in high heels. Yeah, but the pavement's nice and smooth. If you have a nice, smooth bicycle path, why not? Amen to that. There was the bar, wasn't there, full of tarmac, full of black tarmac, and then a bit of red tarmac came in and everyone hid. And then someone said, why is everyone hiding? And they said, he's a bit of a psychopath. I'm here all week, please try the fish. So when I say we can, that there is limited stuff we can do, let's face it. I'm not going to delude myself, but there is a few things that we can do to hopefully slightly mitigate what's going on in America and what's going to happen in America, because it's going to be absolute carnage. I reckon over 10 million Americans are going to die in the next 4 years, violent deaths. It's going to get really, really bad very, very, very quickly, surprisingly quickly to a lot of people. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that Trump is going to have the power to order the shooting dead of protesters. Anyone who's protesting against him in Washington, D.C., he can send in whoever to go and shoot them. And I was having this debate with Mikey, because when I was saying this to him, this is before Trump even got elected, I was saying, I could see that happening. And Trump and Mike's like, no, because the soldiers wouldn't break the law. And I'm like, all right, mate. And, I love Mikey, but soldiers wouldn't break the law. Have you ever? Yeah, don't get me wrong. I've got friends who are soldiers who would never break the law. But just making a blanket statement about that, I would say there is a good proportion of people in the military who are not there to serve their country. They're not there for the honor. They're not there to provide, to protect and serve. They are there to kill people. They are there because they are psychopaths, and they will get they want to be in a theater of war where they get money for killing people. And you don't need that many of them. Say the US, 1%. Let's just say 1% are psychopaths, because 1% of the population are psychopaths. Yeah, Trump tells them to go and shoot some innocent civilians. I can't see them saying no, because it is going to be perfectly legal for Trump to do that. Plus, it's going to be perfectly legal for Trump to murder his political opponents, not just lock them up, which he plans to do. He's going to murder them. It's going to be perfectly legal for him to murder Taylor Swift. That's the system in America right now. They've given a psychopath that level of power. It is like giving Hannibal Lecter the keys to the kindergarten and say, you can eat as many children as you like. Hanny, old chap. Got another super chat coming. Lol, Graham, love a bad joke. That was bloody awful. Thank you, Leipzig. David Feltner, thank you as well for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. America is the largest banana republic on earth. Save the planet, save Jinja, cancel the USA. Thanks, David. If you do want to help saving Jinja Island, please head to the link in the chat, the link in the description to the GoFundMe. But talking of banana republics, this used to be a banana republic. So back in the day, this island and all the islands around here were all owned by the United Fruit Company, which is called Chiquita now, but it's still the United Fruit Company. And if you want to just read about the evils of, corporate America, the United Fruit story here in Central America is just absolutely freaking insane. It's almost as insane as the war in the 1930s that was fought between Bolivia and Paraguay, essentially over oil, right? So there was a region in Bolivia, and it was believed there was oil there. So Paraguay was backed by one oil consortium, and Bolivia was backed by another oil consortium, and hundreds of thousands of people died fighting a massive war over this land. And in the end, Paraguay won. Paraguay grew by a few, million hectares. And what happened? There was no oil. There was no oil. They just died for no reason, fighting, paid for by American and possibly Dutch and possibly British oil companies. That's something that happened. Wow. Yeah, so the United Fruit Company pulled out of here in the 1970s, I think. The paperwork for this island go back to 1981, so I'm guessing that's maybe when they left here. But yeah, this was all banana plantations. Thankfully, it's gone back to nature now. But interestingly, that if you go around the back of my island into Dolphin Bay, there's a little, we call it a cut, but it's the route that you take through to Tierra Oscura Bay, which is on the other side. So you got two bays, you got Dolphin Bay and then you got Tierra Oscura Bay. And on the left of that cut, there's all these trees that are really weird because they're all the same height. Like everywhere else, it's a jungle. I mean, you've got that glorious variation that you get with nature of the heights of everything. But here, it's like a tabletop. It's like, why are all those trees the same height? And they were planted, I think they're balsa trees. They were planted by the United Fruit Company, or on the behest of the United Fruit Company, when this has a banana plantation. They made a balsa, and they were going to cut down the balsa trees and make balsa wood boxes to put the bananas in. But when they pulled out, they just left them there. So yeah, they were all planted on the same day. That's why they're all the same height, and they're all the same species, probably the same DNA. We've got our little blackbird back making strange noises. If you hear a whistle, that's our little bird from there. You can always start growing hemp and recommission the island, Jinja Island, make it completely self-sustaining and productive. I really don't want to do that, mate. I'm not a big fan of toking the smoke. Poor Mikey was so optimistic. Well, yeah. And I wasn't. I kind of got optimistic towards the end. I thought she could do it. I thought she could squeak it. I thought that she was definitely going to win the popular vote no matter what. And then it was going to be a bit of a fight. I didn't expect Trump to take all 7 swing states. That's just, yeah. Wow. Faith in humanity. Not great at all. So yeah, let me know in the chat, what else can we do? What else can we do to fight back against these tyrant billionaires? One of the other things I thought about as well, when we talked about stop funding hate, also getting onto your MPs about Leveson 2. So Leveson inquiry was something that came about in the wake of the phone hacking scandal. It led to the end of the News of the World. And Leveson 2 was all the bits where people would actually probably go to jail for it, what crimes were committed, by who, etc. And it was never conducted because they were waiting for the trials to finish, the private litigation that was being brought against the papers. They wanted that all to be done before Leveson 2 started, and basically David Cameron just backheeled it all. We never got Leveson 2. It's really important that we get that, and also because it would neuter the influence of stuff like the Sun and the Times and the Telegraph, the Mail, the Express, all the right-wing rags. We need to make sure that Ofcom gets some fangs. So instead of just fining GB News a few £100, for outrageous breaches of impartiality, they actually get their license suspended. So all that can be done. It can be done by the Labour government that's in now. We just need enough backbenchers pushing for it. And don't forget, any backbencher can put in a motion and a private members bill that will be debated in that session of Parliament. So yeah, if you can convince enough MPs of something, even if they're backbenchers, even if they're not in the government, they can bring something to people's attention. You look at the assisted dying bill. That is a private members bill. It's probably going to get through, thank God. But that to me is exactly what we need. I mean, we need to have these people who are our representatives, and don't forget Labour and Lib Dems, by and large progressive people who don't like Trump. So if we can think of clever ways of using that to our advantage and using their dislike for Trump to our advantage, that would be really great. Listening to an American visiting the US and doing a road trip, he said that wall-to-wall adverts on the roads and TV didn't stop. US people are bombarded with it with no relief. Yep, I'm sure. Bye-bye News of the World. Hello, Sun on Sunday. Yeah, exactly. It was the same group of people as well. They just changed the masthead. Go Harry and Tom Watson. Really hoping they win against the fail in January. Yes, it's more of the trials that are going ahead. But doing away with these crazy loopholes that allow slap suits, which are to shut up anyone in public life, anyone on Twitter pointing out something dreadful that a company or an individual has done. If that company or individual are rich enough, they can launch a slap suit, which basically shuts them up because the cost of defending themselves is too much. We really need to have another look, and I know there's already been one of this by the Tories, but we need to have another look, a serious look at how we do things with the libel laws in the UK. They're not as bad as they were, but they're still quite ridiculous, and they allow big companies, big corporations, and billionaires to stifle any criticism because they just threaten to sue, and even the threat of being sued is horrific. And then you've got the other side of that, which is that if you are offered something out of court, so if you've offered £10 million out to not go to court, and you turn it down and you go to court and you are awarded £999,999.99 because it's at 1 penny less than the 10 million £9,999,999.99. If you are offered 1 penny less than 10 million, you have to pay all the court costs because you've wasted everyone's time by going to court. Because you could have got more money by just settling, which is why so many people settle. So we've got to end that process as well. And these are all things that will, in their own little way, affect what's happening in America, because Murdoch is, insanely powerful in both the UK and the US and in Australia as well, as a matter of fact. But that isn't that quietly quitting, people know as a white strike. I don't know, maybe. I've not heard that expression before. Slap people strategic legislation against public participation. Viv says, here's hoping Starmer understands the need to change libel laws and go for media reform more than most. Yeah, because he was director of public prosecutions when the News of the World was going down the pan. So, he's got a personal history with that. And the newspapers are never going to do him any favors. And yeah, so we need that. We need the internet clearing up. We desperately need stuff on the internet doing, and we can do it where it's, again, I'm not an absolutist about stuff, and I really do feel that the way things get better is always going to be incrementally. I know it's frustrating. I know for people who like myself who get incredibly impatient about most things in life, asking us to be patient over this kind of stuff is a bit irksome. But when it comes to like an online safety bill, instead of saying we're going to restrict it to we're going to restrict pornography to over 18s, we need to think of more clever ways of solving that problem, of solving the issue of children being able to get that. And I would have a law, and I've spoken about this before, where you have to have, and I think that Sky do a program a bit like this, but essentially we need to have phones for kids, phones that are for children. And on those phones, you don't have free reign on the internet. You can't go on the dark web. You can't see any porn whatsoever. You can't go on these sites that have pornography on them or violent content or whatever. You just can't do it on the phone. It just won't let you. And we need child-friendly apps. So we need TikTok Junior, which is for kids. It's fine. You know, I don't mind kids watching TikTok. My worry is when people, you know, kids go on TikTok and the videos that they're watching are about, you know, how to starve yourself to death or something. That's when I'm thinking, oh my God, what? So instead of having this thing where YouTube, you know, YouTube are pretty good about it at the moment because they make every video, you got to say whether it's made for kids or not. But yeah, having YouTube Kids and making that law, and also clean up pornography. So just to have basic rules, like in the UK, you cannot have porn where, for instance, the man has his hand around the woman's neck. That's it. That's the rule. Okay, I'm not saying there's not going to be other rules as well, but you just say that is banned in the UK. And what all these big porn companies are going to have to do, lest they get basically sued by the British government, or fined, I should say, not sued, or they're fined by the British government, is that they'll have to moderate their content and make sure that kind of violent imagery isn't being beamed into the phones of teenagers around the bloody country so they think it's normal. So yeah, the government can do a lot. We can do a lot by pushing the government to do things, but also I don't think everything's going to get better overnight. I think it's going to be a steady push for a better future. And what we can do is limited, but what we can do it. Going back to the environment thing, Trump is he's going to trash the environment. He's going to absolutely trash the environment. It's up to us in Britain, I feel, that we lead the way. Wouldn't that be brilliant? You know, like we did with CFCs, the banning of CFCs, carbon fluorofluorocarbons, chlorofluorocarbons, I think CFCs. Someone correct me in the chat, something like that. Anyway, they used to be in fridges and they used to be in aerosol cans, and they were causing a hole in the ozone layer. It was discovered in the 1980s, and immediately governments around the world went, oh shit, we need to do something about this, even though the hole wasn't above the UK. We didn't look up and say, I don't see a hole. What are you talking about this hole in the ozone layer? It's all a myth. They're just making it up for their science budgets. Science budgets, I love that one. Yeah, like scientists are making up climate change because they get so much money. They get so much money in research grants. You know, they all swim in gold-plated swimming pools. That's why they have like MTV Cribs, you know, every other week when they're not doing some movie star or like, you know, gangster rapper. They're actually going to the mansion of a climate scientist and swimming in their gold-plated swimming pool. Chlorofluorocarbons. That's what I said. Colin Baker, thank you for doing it. Soft power, yes indeed. But what Britain is uniquely placed to do is this, right? Not only can we lead the way in green technology, which is there. I'm not talking about technology that's 10 years in the future. Let's do stuff with what we've got. Solar panels, hydroelectricity, wind turbines, Doggerland being covered in wind turbines, brilliant, bring it on. That's the kind of thing we need to do. But also, we can lead the Commonwealth on this, which is something that a lot of people overlook. The Commonwealth is 56 countries, and a lot of them are developing. Nearly all of them are developing, actually, and that is a bit of a stain on our legacy. It's a bit shit that we left these countries in such a state that they haven't managed to become anything more than an emerging economy over the last 50, 60, 70 years. But giving them the resources that they need to transition to green energy is a lot easier now that the infrastructure isn't necessarily there for the dirty energy. Do you know what I mean? Where will the doggers go? Mersey Road in Liverpool, I think. Yes, he's single-handedly done more damage to the planet than any other individual. Oh, this is the guy who invented CFCs and he put lead in petrol. And then he died. He died in his own bed because he had an accident or something, and he had a rope pulley system set up so he didn't need anyone looking after him, and strangled himself. Indeed. Actually, you know, the Dogger Bank, you can get into the wind turbines. They've all got doors. You can go in. Spiral staircase in time. I don't know. something like that. Anyway, so you could park your car outside and go. I guess then people couldn't watch, could they? Anyway, people in glass wind turbines should have sex in the basement. No. Anyway, so leading the way, I'm really pushing for that. And I know this is part of Labour wants to be seen as a Green Party. Obviously, Ed Miliband is very, very gung-ho for the Green Revolution. And the pushback for that is going to come from the Murdoch media. Of course it is. And so having that sort of two-punch thing where we say, okay, first reforms to shut the bloody papers up. Well, no, shut them up. Just stop printing lies. That's all I want, you know? And if they do print a lie, they pay for it. Oh my God, they'll pay for it. They'll absolutely pay for it. Sounds like a Darwin Awards contender. Hey, Darian. Darian, thank you so much, Darian. You absolute legend. Beer and Sandbag Fund. Thank you so much, Darian. I really, really appreciate that. £35. I was just about to wrap up and I thought, oh, we haven't taken much in Super Chats this morning. But no, Darian waded in there and funded us. So thank you very much. Does Dogger Bank do mortgages? Hey! The Riverbank. So yes, I'm going to wrap it up there. Is there anything else, quickly before I go, that you think that we could do to push back against what's going to be the oncoming Trumpocalypse and the four nepo babies of the apocalypse? Great. Let me know in the chat now because I'm wrapping up in a couple of minutes. I hope we've had a little bit of a thought process here, like things. What can we do? What can we do? We can be a bit more green. We can push our MPs towards certain policies that would actually help in the long run. And we've got to start thinking strategically. We've got, I think for the last 14 years, we've been very much putting out fires that the Tories have started. Brexit, and obviously we didn't put out that fire, but the Rwanda scheme and whatever other wizard wheezers they decided to come up with, the mini budget. So now we can start looking a bit more at a strategic long-term view of what the future that we want. And I hate to say it, but Trump becoming leader of America and tanking the American economy, it's going to be shit for us because it's going to affect our economy. But it also represents one hell of an opportunity for Britain and for the EU to get in there. If America doesn't want to be a great power anymore, if it wants to become a banana republic, if it wants to become a developing nation, fine. All right, sorry, they voted for it. They did vote for it. They voted for it. Like we voted for Brexit. The stupidest thing we could have ever done. Do you know the final vote for Trump? I think it's come out. 52 to 48. Percent. The other thing is if these developing nations are able to produce loads of solar energy, they become very important to the cloud industry, which requires lots of power. Indeed. I mean, you think about just how much solar you would need in somewhere like Morocco, which isn't part of the Commonwealth, but Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya. I mean, they have so much sunshine. Sunshine. The solar plants that they could have there with, doing with the server farm there. So that's the only thing it's meant for. Obviously, like you could have an idea where you say, well, we build this city of solar in Sahara, and then we have electrical cables going, across Europe, and it powers the whole of Europe. There's a few problems with that. One is transmission. You lose power over extended lines, so the longer the line is, the more power you lose. Also, there's the threat of sandstorms and things like that covering the panels. They would need to be cleaned quite regularly. I suppose you could set them up to be self-cleaning, but things in the desert, it's like things in the ocean, near the sea. It's like they take a lot of maintenance. And then you've got the threat of terrorist insurgency and things like that in the North Africa. We don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. They do tend to have unstable governments around that region, and you tend to get a lot of separatist groups and things like that. So it'd be a bit shit if we set up a big solar farm in northern Mali, and then some lunatics from the Al Qaeda in the sub-Sahara Africa or whatever it's called turn up and decide to start destroying things. It's already started. Thousands of job losses being cut back, and no bonuses this year. People, they were told. I don't know what you're talking about specifically there. Maybe in America, I don't know. But yes, Morocco is already connected to the EU grid. It is. It is. Look at the energy used to mine bloody Bitcoin. Yeah, I know. Such a waste of energy. Such a waste of energy to make some money for dickheads. No, sorry, that's not very fair. Insulate houses and lower usage of fuels. We do import some coal and oil from the US still, but it's not as much as Norway. But US would probably be the first. Would cut off. Yeah. Well, the Labour government said no. They're bringing in a law to say no more coal mines in the UK, which is fantastic. But also, yes, we need to really, really cut down on the amount of CO2 we're making in the UK. A ban on excessive short flights. It's ridiculous that these businessmen, usually always men, isn't it, flying around on the private jets is causing more pollution than an average family does in like their entire lifetime. In Africa, it would become a lot more stable if there was a lot less poverty. Yes, Ned, it absolutely would. And it's not just poverty. I mean, it's the whole way that Africa has been treated for hundreds of years now as just somewhere for other empires to go and plunder for resources, whether that was slaves, whether that was oil, minerals, and time again, we see it as just somewhere. It's seen as somewhere where other countries can just go and take stuff, and that's got to stop. It's got to absolutely stop. And that's again, it's something that the Commonwealth, a commitment in the Commonwealth, a charter, the Commonwealth Charter that pushes countries towards more transparency, more freedom of movement around areas of the Commonwealth would be fantastic. Not that they're all touching each other, unfortunately, but you know what I mean. If Ghana, which is in ECOWAS, was pushing for more freedom of movement around ECOWAS, that would be great. At the moment, it is supposed to be an area of free movement, but it doesn't quite work as well as it should. Same with other places, but yeah, pushing for that kind of thing. One of the things that I would always criticize the UN about is it wasn't particularly aspirational. I always felt like there should be more than one vote for certain countries. I just found it ridiculous that China, with 1.4 billion people, got one vote in the UN, and Nauru, with 8,000 people, got one vote in the UN. I'm like, how does that, what? And why does North Korea get a vote at the same number of votes as Sweden? Why? I mean, not just the disparity in population, as you can see with India or China versus the Pacific Islands, but also there's I'm sorry for getting wind on the mic here, but also the disparity of freedom in those places. I think you should get more votes the more democratic you are. The higher you score on, say, Transparency International's list, then the more votes you get in the UN. So there's actually an incentive. There's a charter which says, this is the way we want our country to go. More freedom for people, more personal freedom, freedom for minority rights, all that kind of stuff. It would be, that kind of future would be something that Britain could take the lead on. It really could. Instead of just exploiting these places, instead of actually enriching them. We need to be enriching them, because the richer they are, the richer we will be. It's as simple as that. On a practical note, I'll switch to an electric vehicle when the haulage industry does, indeed. That would upset the UN. Windy again, yeah, I know. I'm trying to turn to make my body a bit of a windbreak here. The only downside is the British museums will be empty when we returned all the artifacts we stole. Well, no, they wouldn't. We can make copies. I've said this a million times. We can make perfect 3D printed copies of whatever we want, and no one will be able to tell the difference unless they put it under an electron microscope. Make copies of everything and then send it back from whence it came. Benin bronzes, the Parthenon marbles, the Rosetta Stone, send them back. Can't stress that enough. But yeah, I don't think that's somewhere that Labour want to dip into at the moment. Saw an electric rubbish truck yesterday. It's happening. What was it a rubbish truck, or was it a truck full of? For sandbagging the island, doing some help, or does it have to be done, or does it have to be done to have any effect? Doing some of it really does help. Like, areas of the island get flooded from different parts of the edge of the island, if you like. I don't want to say coast of the island, the shore of the island, yeah. On the shoreline, there's certain places where a lot of water gets in at that point. So there's a particular point that we're actually blocking up at the moment. We've had to dig down into the soil quite low. We've put stones down there. We're putting really thick clay mud down there as well, and then that's going to be built up above the surface, and that's going to stop the flooding at this the end of the island that I'm at the moment, which is down there. I'm at the boat dock at the moment. I don't know how you can see this. Hang on. If I do this, you can be able to see better. There you go. So yeah, down that part, basically, we've nearly cracked getting all the water from over there that comes in. But over by the house, that's going to be the big challenge, because there's 3 separate places that water comes in that affect the house, and we've got to build a small wall and make sure that is all covered. And then plant palm trees along it. We're going to plant, next week, we're going to be planting palm trees. We're going to get, I think, something like 100 coconuts from Ishmael's dad's farm, or even Ishmael's farm. Ishmael's got a farm as well. And we're going to plant coconuts all along the edge of the island, because palm trees raise the level of the island, so they create a natural barrier. So that's going to be fantastic. That's the plan. It does look wonderful, Graham. It does. It's a bit windy today, as I'm going to just move this over so you can see. It's a bit windy today, so if I just switch through the camera, you can see the ripples in the water. Can you see the ripples in the water? Can you see the ripples in the water, Clary? Shit. Oh, it's so peaceful. Just stay here all day in my hammock, but I can't. I'm going to get to work. We have several hundred tons of soil to shift. Some have, they can't, full swap. Graham begins a smarts person. What? Ooh, that's stunning. The server farms that provide hot water to a town instead of venting their heat to the air is a good idea. The town doesn't need gas heating. Yeah. I mean, server farms are necessary. I think Bitcoin mining operations that use loads of electricity is a little bit, I don't know, a little bit flippant. I don't know. A little bit unnecessary at this time of year. If you can hear that noise, that's a boat. I'll just flip the camera around. That's a boat. Hello, Mr. Boat. It's going off to town very fast. Hey, anyway, right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the super chats. I really appreciate that. It's really kind of you. Does Ishmael work for you? Yes. Ishmael lives on the island, and I pay him to live on the island. He's the custodian of the island. He maintains the place when I'm not here. So I could charge him rent, I guess, for living on the island, but I don't, because I don't believe in rent. So, I do actually walk the walk and then just talk the talk. He looks after the place for me. If he wasn't here, the place would get absolutely trashed. So people would just come and take everything, quite rightly, because a lot of people around here don't have very much. And if some stupid gringo leaves, their solar panels out, for anyone to take, then they're going to take them. If they think your island has been abandoned, they will come and take everything away. So yeah, in order to stop that from happening, I need someone on the island. So it makes sense. In the same way that if you own a house and you need it not to fall into rack and ruin, it really helps to have someone living there, which is why I think that landlords should pay their tenants. Like you pay a night watch person for your museum, don't you? Is there any dangerous wildlife that might kill humans, says Genie Bottle? Not on this island. There's little scorpions. I saw a scorpion yesterday, or the day before. A couple of days ago, saw a scorpion. I picked up a piece of wood, and it was a piece of dead wood. And there was a bit of bark on it, which was it'd come off the wood because it was dead. And I knocked the bark off it, and underneath the bark was a scorpion. It's only about that big. Would have bloody hurt if it had stung me, but luckily it didn't. But no, there's little mud crabs. They can't really do that much damage. There's some wasps that bloody sting. Some fire ants don't leave food out. But yeah, it's nothing on this island that can kill you really, apart from the water maybe if you drowned in it. A member of the GOP, the Genital Obsessed Party, who have voted against the Affordable Care Act, is now begging for money as he's badly hurt falling off his horse. Oh, well, there you go. Could produce H2 and mix it with the natural gas pipeline. I don't know if that would work very well, Andy, because you've got to produce it, and that requires fossil fuels at the moment, and we haven't cracked that nut yet. Anyway, so thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock GMT for another episode of I like to call it jungle brew, but it's island brew. Island brew here from Jinja Island in Boycotting, Panama. I'm gonna hopefully do another show, and it'll be the same sort of format. Just, relaxed. Let's have a chat. Let's shoot the breeze, and let's think of better ways of living, I guess, and let's stay together because we've got a Trump coming up. We've got a Trumpocalypse coming up, and I think it's going to be more important than ever for our collective mental health that we help each other out in that, and we just make sure that we know, and you know, and I know that we're not alone. We're not alone. Guys, a bloody nightmare. Anyway, right, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, have a great day on the island. When you put it in capitals, it sounds ominous. Have a great time, everyone, today, and until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.